it's entrepreneurial 101, right? Is you have to
Right.
adapt and pivot, and you have to go through those days where you think, even if the sky isn't falling, you have to
Uh-huh.
act like it is, and you have to think like it is, and you have to adjust like it is, or else when that day does come, you'll get wiped out. Welcome to Stream, a trucktractortrailer.com production. My name is Zach Miller. I'm your host, and I'm really excited about this conversation. I'm joined today by Derrick Williams, who is the host of the Trucking Entrepreneurs podcast. Derrick, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, man. Appreciate the opportunity and you taking time out for me. I really do.
Oh, of course. So, but let's talk about this. So, you've been doing the Trucking Entrepreneurs podcast for it's about 6 months now, right?
Roughly, yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
So, how'd you get started in that?
Well, basically, the whole podcast thing came from me taking 2 courses for a freight dispatcher. And my first intent was to become a freight dispatcher once I finished those courses. But, as I share with everybody, God said otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And I wind up a couple of days after finishing that second course, with prayer and meditation, he led me towards podcasting along with my wife confirming it. And from there, it's been history, man. Just been taking the experiences I had, my goodness, what was it? 15, 17 years ago, something like that, of driving box trucks for a food snack delivery company, a lot of years of customer service, just combining everything in there and the knowledge that I learned from the freight dispatching courses, and just went ahead and stepped out on faith, man, and started the podcast.
That's a beautiful thing. That's beautiful. I love it. And I love how, that really is so much of trucking that we don't talk about. There is that entrepreneurial mindset, that entrepreneurial spirit, and the fact that you could take a skill and transfer it to a different aspect, of the industry, if you so choose, or if that's where your pathway goes. Because these are really great skills and knowledge to have. And I think that, I'm so glad you started the podcast because, it's something we talk a lot about here on Stream in that this is a very entrepreneurial, very transferable skill type of industry. And the American people don't quite see that and understand that. So I think that's where podcasting can kind of come in and bridge that gap, where the people have a better understanding of what really goes into the industry here.
Correct. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
So here's what I'm really curious about, though. So you've been doing this podcast, as we said, for about 6 months now. So what have you learned? You've had a really interesting group of guests coming on your pod, and I know you're starting to branch out and be guests on others as well. So what lesson, and as we talk about, what a fascinating last couple of years it's been in trucking and transportation and logistics. So here we are, we've been going through everything we've been going through, COVID, supply chain, inflation, all that stuff. And here you are starting this podcast about 6 months ago. What have you learned and seen from your conversations?
Well, one of the main thing is being able to adapt and pivot in this industry. And, you brought up pandemic, which, caused a lot of havoc, not only in the trucking logistics industry, that's in all, industries. And just seeing how different entrepreneurs that I've interviewed, and then also paying attention to LinkedIn and different social media platforms, a lot of them have, were smart enough to adapt and then pivot to, either branch off into something else to help keep the business afloat, or if they had a brick and mortar type of business, they may have branched off into, e-commerce, online business or something like that to keep it going. And, as we've been around, I don't know how old you are, but, we've been around long enough to know something else is coming. We don't know when and where, but this pandemic should have taught us a valuable lesson. We better be prepared to adapt, and that's what I've learned from a lot of entrepreneurs I've associated with.
I couldn't have said it better myself, and that's so true. And it's like, I think that really is it's entrepreneurial 101, right? Is you have to
Right.
adapt and pivot, and you have to go through those days where you think, even if the sky isn't falling, you have to
Uh-huh.
act like it is, and you have to think like it is, and you have to adjust like it is, or else when that day does come, you'll get wiped out.
Exactly. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You got to do it, man. It's sad that what we went through, with the pandemic and all, but it's hopefully a lot of people that maybe wasn't prepared or didn't adapt. Hopefully they still are surviving with their businesses and, taking a lesson from this and are, developing ways for if something else happens.
I agree, and I think if I were to have the sort of glass half full mentality on your last point, I think the fact that we're seeing so much investment in this freight tech field, and we're seeing so many companies
Mhm.
move to digital. You even mentioned LinkedIn before, and to see the activity that's really picked up on LinkedIn just in the trucking industry. Forget about all the other professionals and industries that are on LinkedIn and active, but just trucking has
Right.
become so active on LinkedIn over the last, year and a half. I think that really does speak to that point of, hey, we need to start changing things. We know we need to start changing things. Let's sort of start moving in this direction so that, we can survive now, thrive, and be prepared for, the next storm that hits.
Right. And to your point, I like where you're going with this, is also two CEOs that I know that through all of this, their platforms was birthed through this pandemic. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but My Trucker Pro, their platform for trucking and transportation professionals. And also I see Driver's List. They're a major directory for transportation professionals. And with those two platforms, they actually were created for the transportation, trucking and logistics industry. So, the old saying how a lot of times something bad comes along, but it can be wound up turning to something good. And I look at those two platforms, which actually are made specifically for our industry, and hopefully more and more people in that industry will convert there and, blossom.
I think so. I hope so. And
Mhm.
that you always anytime something bad happens, you do see people sort of come through it on the other end and sort of change their way of thinking and create products, services, companies, whatever, that is of benefit to society. And it's great that logistics and transportation is no different from that.
Correct. Yes, sir. Mhm.
So someone wants to subscribe to the to Trucking Entrepreneurs podcast. Somebody wants to check out what you're doing. How do they go about doing that?
Very easily. You can visit www.thetruckingentrepreneursPodcast.com. Actually, on my platform, it has all the major channels, podcast platform channels that you can subscribe and follow to follow each one of my podcasts as well.
Perfect. Love it. Love what you're doing for the industry. How you're raising the awareness and how you're really fighting for that entrepreneurial spirit that we have to make sure to maintain.
Thank you.
So special treat for all you listeners out there. I'm actually about to jump on the Trucking Entrepreneurs podcast right now. So we're going to have a little bit of home and home action here. So we hope, and we'll have the link in the stream below. So we hope you guys listen and enjoy both these podcasts. Same people, different conversation. That's what trucking's all about.
That's right. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Zach. I really do appreciate the opportunity again. I really enjoyed myself.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. If you guys like what you see, please be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on stream. Well, technically, we'll see you next time on the Trucking Entrepreneurs podcast, but stream as well.
That's right.